Okay, guys, so we are going to look at outliers today. So outliers are just things which you would probably see outside the norm. So if, say, someone was doing a survey in our class and they asked for everyone's ages, and then you guys wrote down your ages. I know there's a variety of ages in the class, so you might have all these ages, and then all of a sudden someone felt like asking me as well, and then there's that age. And imagine just having this in the middle of all this data. Would that make any sense? Okay. This would throw everything off when it comes to averages, because if I was to do a mean, then the mean would make it go up, because my age would cause someone to say, well, the average in the class is actually much higher than expected because of that 36. It would also mean if I was talking about the range of the ages in the class, you would say like 36, take away 11. And so that would be a 25-year range, which is obviously quite a bit much. So some people would already note down that when they are taking ages in the class, they would only take it from the students. And so that would get rid of the outlier. Or if you are talking about it in a question, you would say 36 was an outlier. We ignored this information because it wasn't talking about the student's age. It was talking about the teacher's age. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and so you get these kind of things all the time. So quite a common example that is usually used is when you have graphs. So say I have a graph and I am talking about the value. So value of car. Okay. And what I want to do is compare the value of the car in comparison to the age. So when you buy a car that is brand new off the shop floor, then obviously your price is going to be at its highest, right? And then over time, you will probably notice that the prices come down. You'll have a variety of cars at a variety of ages, and then it just comes down. But what if I had one outlier just there? Okay, so that would be an outlier because it's taking all the information and it's completely throwing the data off. So you would correctly say there is a negative correlation if you remember from scatter graphs. Woohoo! So you would say as the value, as the age of a car increases, the value decreases. But you might remember that we did once talk about antique cars. So if you have an antique car, that would throw off the value and that would be an outlier. So you would just have to explain the outlier. Most of the time it is just common sense, guys. So you should just be able to do it quite easily. So you might have something like that. It might be a list of numbers, as we've already done, where I'm talking about one being slightly different. That should be about it. But they usually just ask you a question. So say if, I don't know, we were talking about the past week and I'm a restaurant owner. And I'm saying time of week. So let's just say this is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Oh, let's have this keep going. So over the past week, I'm talking about the number of sales that I've made. So I'm going to say, well, I made some money there, made some money there, made some money there, made a little bit of money there. Oh, quite a bit of money on Thursday. Friday, I made nothing. And then Saturday, I made quite a bit of money. Okay, so my outlier now would be this one. But would I be able to explain the outlier? Well, over the past week, there was a lockdown on that day. So that would explain the reason why I didn't make any money, okay? I didn't make any sales because of lockdown, okay? So lockdown would mean Miss Colsum's imaginary restaurant is closed. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So when it comes to outliers, it's essentially do everything that you've already been doing. You've got the range, you've got the mode, you've got the median, you've got the mean, But sometimes you just need to consider in real life, you will have a piece of data that seems to defy the pattern that you already have going. And what you just need to be able to do is just apply some common sense and try and see the reason why it might be an outlier of data, especially if you start going into any of the technical fields. It is something that you do usually encounter anyway. So you might have control values which help you eliminate outliers, or you might just have one piece of data that just throws everything off, and you just need to be able to come up with a conclusion as to why that happened. Okay, that's essentially all it is. So if some of you want to go off, answer those questions, and then do what you need, that's perfectly fine. You might just want to pause here, and then we will go through the variety of questions, or you might just want to go off and check out the video later. Okay, so I am just going to go through all the questions now. So let's look at these questions. We have at question 1, it says, for each scatter graph, circle any points that do not fit in with the pattern. Okay, that's kind of obvious. I don't really think I need to do it. So for the first one, obviously, the ones outside the pattern. So there's one outlier in the top left-hand corner, one outlier here. There are 2 outliers there, which is at both sides of the graph. And then for the last one here, there are 2 outliers just outside over there. Okay, so if I had to draw the graph, that would be the outlier, that would be the outlier, that would be the 2 outliers, and then there's 2 outliers there. Okay. For the second one, it says some students were given a puzzle to solve. Here are the time in minutes that they had to complete the puzzle. Which time does not fit in with the others? Okay, so when you look at this list of numbers, which one seems completely different? A very easy indicator is all of them are single digit numbers except for this one. Okay, so that would be your outlier. The important thing, quite a lot of you are not doing the explanation so much, so you need to make sure you start doing the explanations, but you need to be able to explain why that is an outlier. So it might be that they took a break. Okay, might be that they took a break. It could be that they didn't follow the instructions. Okay, so they had to redo it. A multitude of reasons, just as long as you come up with something logical. I know plenty of people that buy things and then they just don't bother reading the instructions and guesstimate their way through. So it's just perfectly logical. But I would say it's good to read instructions. If you're able to read instructions, that just helps make your life easier. Okay, so for the next one, you've got question 3. Okay, so you'll see this is a bar chart. It's not a vertical, it's a horizontal, but it's still a bar chart. You may have seen them in geography, because a lot of bar charts in geography kind of go that way. So the graph shows the attendance at home matches of a football club. And you'll notice that they've got a pretty steady attendance, except for that one day in January, on the 5th of January. So it says on which day was the attendance very different. So the attendance, 5th January 2020, however you might write it. Obviously, if you're into the American style of writing, you'll probably be used to writing this, but this is written in the British standard kind of fashion. Because it's day, month, yeah. Okay, so give a reason why the attendance may have been very different on the date. There is no one answer for this, as long as it's logical. I'm just going to say it was snowing. I don't know. I wasn't in the UK on the 5th, so I don't know the weather report. It was snowing. It could have been snowing. On a day it's snowing, there won't really be much traffic. Okay, so number 4, here are the ages in years of people at a birthday party. What are the values of the outliers? Okay, so they've got a birthday party and it says 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, and then you've got 36, 32, 62. Okay, so when it says what value are the outliers, as you already know from the graphs, it doesn't have to just be one value, there could be more than one value. But if it's a kid's birthday party, I am going to say these are my outliers. And if I have to give a possible reason why, I might say that these two people are parents and that is a grandparent. Yeah, it's just logical. That's all. Just use a little bit of thinking and you should be fine. Okay, so for the next one, question number 5, students are asked to estimate the size of the angle shown. First things first, what type of angle is it? It's acute, so I need it to be less than it's acute, so it needs to be less than 90, more than 0. So what does it say? Circle the two angles that are definitely not a good estimate for the angle. Okay, so I am going to say it needs to be less than 100? Giving the answers before I'm thinking about it. It needs to be less than 80, so it definitely can't be the 150 degrees or the 135 degrees, because both of those are bigger than a right angle. If they're bigger than a right angle, they definitely cannot be the size of an acute. Okay, and then it says, how do you know these angles are definitely wrong? Just make sure you give a good reason. I'm using the reason that an acute angle would be between 0 and 90 degrees. You could have said that both of these are obtuse angles. That would have worked as well. Just make sure, obviously, you use the right mathematical reason, and then you should be fine. Okay, then B, look at the values you have not circled. Are there any other outliers? Okay, so if I'm looking at the ones I haven't circled, I am going to say 10 degrees, because that's just tiny. Okay, 10 degrees is, imagine this is 90 degrees, 10 degrees is like there, so that's not really 10 degrees, right? Okay, so number 6. I'm so sorry if I pronounce this wrong. Juan, I think, conducts a survey about how far students live from school. Here are his results in miles. Do any of the values seem very different from the others? Okay, so the value that seems vastly different would be 5.6. That seems to be a lot different. I might say takes the train. I don't know. Takes the train, lives in another town. It could be a multitude of things. You could have gone on the other end of the scale. You could have gone to like 0.1. I used to remember when I went to school, there was literally a person that used to live opposite the school. So she just used to open the door, cross the road, and she was at school. So the 0.1 might be like the outlier because that person lives next to the school. So just depending on what kind of reason you personally use, that's perfectly fine. I just went for the 5.6 because it was such a huge gap from the rest of them. You could have personally, you could have said 5.6 and 2.5 because it's just well above and beyond the 1.1, which is the next nearest. Okay, so there's that one. Then for question number 7. Okay, so Danny records the temperature at the same time of day in the same place over a period of 2 weeks. Here are her results. Which result in the table do you think are outliers? Okay, so I am going to say 1 and 27 are outliers. Okay, and if I have to give a reason, same place, same time. If I have to give a reason, I don't know, snow. heat wave. I know that's just me giving a reason. There could be a number of reasons that you could use. So these are obviously one of those questions where it just needs to be a sensible answer. As long as you have a sensible answer, you can gain the credit for it. Okay, next one. The daily wages of 10 people who work at a small factory are shown. Work out the mean daily wage. Oh, okay. A bit of average work. Let's get that done. Okay, so I've got 70, 70, 80, 80, 80. Just going to add it up on my calculator. 80, was it? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so altogether it's 880. How many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So divide that over 10, you get 88. Okay, so 88 is the mean daily wage. It says work out the range. So the range would be the highest. The highest is 170. The lowest is 70. So that is 100. And it says which value is the outlier. Well, £170 is the outlier. It's just vastly different from the rest of them. You'll notice that the mean is higher than every single value bar that 170. And then D, work out the mean and the range of the daily wages if the outlier is removed. Okay. So the mean, if the outlier is removed, would be, let's use my trusty calculator again. So I've got 710 divided by 9, which then equals 78 point. It is 8 reoccurring, but you guys should know how to round. So I'm going to round to the nearest pound, which is £79. And the range would be 85 take away 70, which is £15. And it says, what do you notice? So the things you might notice, obviously the range is dramatically smaller. Okay, and the mean would fit closer to the actual numbers. So you'll notice once I actually get rid of that outlier, the mean is essentially that most common number. So if you're looking at the mode would have been 80, and the mean is very, very close to that 80. Okay, the range is a lot smaller, so that means it's a lot more consistent in the values. The values, you would expect them to be closer together because that range, whereas that one is vastly different. And if anyone was thinking about a reason as to why this would be the outlier, this might be the manager and everyone else is the workers. Okay, so that should be fine. So hopefully outliers wasn't too much of an issue and it was something that's nice and simple. Outliers is something that's just very, very logical. As long as you think with a little bit of logic and a little bit of common sense, outliers, easy peasy. Okay, any questions, obviously pop them into the classroom or email me and then we can get it sorted. But otherwise, we've gone through the answers, so hopefully you should have been able to double check and reflect on the work that you've done. Okay, take care, guys. Toodles.